Chapter number 1, The Lost Child, written by Mulk Raj Anand. A child goes to a fair with his parents. He is happy and excited and wants the sweets and toys displayed there. But his parents don't buy them for him. Why then does he refuse when someone else offers them to him? It was the festival of spring. From the wintry shades of narrow lanes and alleys emerged a gaily clad humanity. Some walked, some rode on the horses, others sat, being carried in bamboo and bullock carts. One little boy ran between his father's legs, brimming over with life and laughter. यानी एक छोटा बच्चा भी अपने मम्मी पापा के साथ फेयर में जा रहा है, खुशी खुशी. Come, child, come, called his parents, as he lagged behind, fascinated by the toys in the shops that lined the way. He hurried towards his parents, his feet obedient to their call, his eyes still lingering on the receding toys as he came to where they had stopped to wait for him. He could not suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well knew the old cold stare of refusal in their eyes. I want that toy, he pleaded. He requested to his father that he wanted that toy. But his father looked at him red-eyed. Red-eyed, with anger, in his familiar tyrant's way. His mother, melted by the free spirit of the day, was tender and giving him her finger to hold, said, "Look, child, what is before you? कि देखो आगे क्या है?" It was a flowering mustard field. Mustard field यानी सरसों का खेत, pale yellow like melting gold as it swept across miles and miles of even hand. A group of dragonflies were bustling about on their gaudy purple wings, intercepting the flight of a lone black bee or butterfly in search of sweetness from the flowers. The child followed them in the air with his gaze till one of them would still its wings and rest, and he would try to catch it, but it would go flapping up into the air when he had almost caught it in his hands. Then his mother gave a cautionary call, "Come, child, come onto the footpath." Onto the footpath. The little child was excited because he was visiting the fair. The journey to the fair was overwhelming, very happy on the way. He was often attracted by things which he witnessed or seen in the fair. He was attracted by the toys displayed in the shop. He wanted to buy toys, but he knew his parents' refusal to buy them. There were so many things in the shop, in the fair. He ran towards his parents gaily and walked abreast of them for a while, being, however, soon left behind, attracted by the little insects and worms along the footpath that were teeming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. "Come, child, come," his parents called from the shade of a grove where they had seated themselves on the edge of a well. He ran towards them. A shower of young flowers fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to gather the raining petals in his hands. But lo, he heard the cooing of doves and ran towards his parents, shouting, "The dove, the dove!" The raining petals dropped from his forgotten hands. "Come, child, come," they called to the child, who had now gone running in wild capers round the banyan tree, and gathering him up they took the narrow, winding footpath which led to the fair through the mustard field. As they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of throngs conversing to the whirlpool of the fair, and felt at once repelled and fascinated, attracted by the confusion of the world he was entering. Very excited. He felt very much excited and overwhelmed, seeing all the scene in the fair. A sweet mart seller hawked. There was a sweet mart seller who hawked gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi at the corner of the entrance, and a crowd pressed round his counter at the foot of an architecture of many colored sweets decorated with leaves of silver and gold, यानी इसके ऊपर सिल्वर और गोल्ड का वर्क चढ़ा हुआ था. The child started open-eyed and his mouth watered for the barfi. Barfi is his favorite sweet. तो उसका जो मुंह में था पानी आ गया. That was his favorite sweet. I want that barfi. He slowly murmured, but he half knew as he begged that his plea would not be heeded because his parents would say he was greedy. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. He wanted to buy there were sweet shop in the fair, and several types of sweets such as gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi were displayed in the plates. The child wanted to eat them. His favorite sweet was barfi, so his mouth watered. But his parents paid no attention to his demand or his request. A flower seller hawked a garland of gulmohar, a garland of gulmohar, garland of gulmohar, garland of gulmohar. The child seemed irresistibly drawn. He went towards the basket where the flowers lay heaped and half murmured, I want that garland. He requested his parents that he wanted that garland, but he well knew his parents would refuse to buy him those flowers because they would say that they were cheap. So, without waiting for an answer, he moved on. A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, green and purple balloons. जैसे वो थोड़े आगे जाते हैं तो वहाँ देखता है कि एक बलून सेलर बलून बेच रहा है. Flying from it, the child was simply carried away by the rainbow glory of their silken color, and he was filled with an overwhelming desire to possess them all. But he well knew his parents would never buy him the balloons because they would say he was too old to play with such toys. यानी उससे क्या कहेंगे कि वह बहुत इतना छोटा नहीं रहा कि इस तरीके के खिलौने से खेलेगा. So he walked on farther. A snake charmer stood playing a flute to a snake which coiled itself in the basket, its head raised in the graceful bend like the neck of a swan, while the music stole into its invisible ears like the gentle rippling on an invisible waterfall. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the snake charmer played, he proceeded further. There was a roundabout, a full swing. Men, women, and children, carried away in a whirling motion, shrieked and cried with dizzy laughter. The child watched them intently, and then he made a bold request. इस बार उसने सोचा कि वो अभी bold request करेगा, क्योंकि वो अपने इस desire को suppress नहीं करना चाहता था. I want to go on the roundabout. Please, mother. Please, father. There was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there. जैसे उसने पीछे देखा तो उसने देखा कि उसके मम्मी पापा वहाँ नहीं थे. Ahead of him, he turned to look on either side. They were not there. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. A full deep cry rose within his dry throat, and with a sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in real fear. Which fear? Mother, father. He feared like that कि his mother and father lost. Tears rolled down from his eyes, hot and fierce. His flushed face was convulsed with fear. Panic-stricken, he ran to one side first, then to the other, hither and thither, and here and there, in all directions, knowing not where to go. Mother, father. He wailed. His yellow turban came and untied, and his clothes became muddy. Having run to and fro in a rage of running for a while, he stood defeated, his cries suppressed into sobs. At little distances, on the green grass, he could see, through his filmy eyes, men and women talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of bright yellow cloths, but there was no sign of his father and mother among these people who seemed to laugh and talk just for the sake of laughing and talking. Now you think, finally, he came to the place where a roundabout was in full swing. Men, women, and children carried away in a whirling motion. They shrieked or cried with dizzy laughter. The child also wanted to go on the roundabout. यानी वो खुद भी मैरी गो राउंड में बैठना चाहता था. He made a request to fulfill his desire, but there was no reply from his parents. क्यों? Because they were not there. Actually, he was attracted by the roundabout. He stayed and watched the roundabout. To his surprise, when he turned to look for his parents, he did not find them. Actually, he was lost. His parents his parents were not there. He ran quickly again, this time to a shrine to which people seemed to be crowding. Every little inch of space here was congested with men, but he ran through people's like छोटा बच्चा है इसलिए लोगों के नीचे नीचे से अपने दौड़ रहा है अपने मम्मी पापा को ढूंढने के लिए. His little sob lingering, mother, father. Near the entrance to the temple, however, the crowd became very thick. People jostled each other, यानी एक दूसरे से धक्का मार रहे थे. Heavy men with flashing, murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. The poor child struggled to thrust a way between their feet, but knocked to and fro by their brutal movement. He might have been trampled underfoot, and he not shrieked at the highest pitch of his voice, "Father, mother." A man in the surging crowd heard his cry and stooping with great difficulty lifted him up in his arm. एक आदमी जो दूर से उसको देख रहा था उसकी क्राई सुनकर के उसने उसको अपनी बाहों में आर्म्स में उठा लिया. How did you get here? तुम यहाँ पर कैसे आए बच्चे? उसने पूछा. Whose baby are you? The man asked as he steered clear of the mass. The child wept more bitterly than ever now and only cried, "I want my mother, I want my father." The man tried to soothe him, console him, sympathize him by taking him to the roundabout. "Will you have a ride on the horse?" he gently asked as he approached the ring. The child's throat tore into 1,000 shrill sobs and he only shouted, "I want my mother, I want my father." The man headed towards the place where the snake charmer still played on the flute to the swaying cobra. Listen to that nice music, child. यानी बच्चा पहले वो म्यूजिक सुनना चाहता था, but now he played it. He requested, but the child shut his ears with his fingers and shouted his double-pitched strain. I want my father. I want my mother. The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright color of the balloon would distracted the child's attention and questioned him. Would you like a rainbow-colored balloon? He asked. The child turned his eyes from the flying balloons and just sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. The man, still trying to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller said, Look, can you smell those nice flowers, child? Would you like a garland to put round your neck? The child turned his nose away from the basket and reiterated his sob. I want my mother, I want my father. Thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets, the man took him to the counter of the sweet shop. What sweets would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed, I want my father, I want my mother, I want my father. Mulk Raja Anand. So now, children, you understand the chapter. A kind man from the crowd came forward and picked him up in his arms. He was ready to buy all things he wanted earlier. जो उसको पहले चाहिए होती हैं वो सब चीज़ें वो आदमी उसके लिए खरीद देना चाहता है. But right now he was ready to buy all things he wanted earlier, but he refused them. He only said, I want my mother, I want my father. So student, you understand that the story concentrate on the universality of the child's desire for everything. कि बच्चा है उसको सब कुछ चाहिए. But child, his aspiration, demands and realization. The story is mainly focused on the awareness of parents. The message is, the story is, we really don't understand the true value of parents and take them as granted. The significance of parents is only revealed once they are not of sight and we realize that the world is upside down. Like small child. That what the little child realized once he got lost in a fair. The ending is emotional as the reader keeps on guessing whether the lost child would have finally found his parents or not. So now, students, please watch this video and understand the chapter. After that, I will discuss the question answer of this chapter. Thank you.